Hello, it's Helen from Mrs. B Bakes. I just wanted to make a short video about how to crumb coat a cake in readiness for covering it in fondant or putting another layer of buttercream over the top for it to be a buttercream coated cake. It's quite a simple procedure. Once you have your cake ready to go, you need to mix yourself up a nice batch of buttercream and have whatever fillings you need ready, and then it's time to go. So I'll go over some of the equipment that you might need. Okay, so here's a rundown of the things that you're going to need to crumb coat your cake. So here we have, first of all, a turntable, a cake turntable. Mine is really very old, very, very simple. It comes apart for storage and goes back together again. I was given this by my mother-in-law, but better turntables than this are available, but this is really all you need. In addition, I use this non-slip matting. You can buy this from all over the place, really. It just stops things slipping, so I have a pre-cut piece that I put on there. If I'm crumb coating a cake that is smaller than 10 inches, I also use an upturned saucer, which I place on there, and another piece of non-slip matting that goes over the top. That's just to raise the cake up off the base of the turntable to make it easier to do the crumb coating and thereafter the icing. The next thing you will need is an 8-inch or whatever size cake you're making, a cake thin, a double single thin cake board to put the cake on. I am also using an angled palette knife like this, really handy. You can use a straight one, an angled one is much easier. You can buy those all over the place and they come in really handy. Obviously you will need a cake. I wrap mine up in cling film once they're cool to keep them nice and fresh. And the filling, here we have raspberry jam. That's what I put inside my all my Victoria sponges, and finally a lovely big bowl of buttercream. Sorry, you don't need the sieve in the background. So that's what you'll need for crumb coating this cake. I'll now set the camera up so I can show you how to do it. Okay, so you can see here in the background I already have a 10-inch crumb coated cake. So that's what your crumb coat is aiming to look like when you've done this step. Basically the aim of a crumb coat is to keep all the crumbs inside, so that when you're covering it with fondant or your next layer of buttercream, you don't get any stray crumbs spoiling the effect. So first of all, we need to take a glob of buttercream and just spread that on the base so that you can then undo your cake and place your first cake bang in the middle of the board. Now I always leave my piece of greaseproof paper on the bottom just to help keep the moisture in. Now I'm taking a nice big spatula of buttercream, spreading it on, and we need some more buttercream. I don't put tons and tons on a cake because you'll find that then it makes bulges in the icing, which is a bit unsightly. So a nice layer of buttercream on the top here, spread it all out all the way to the edges, and just make sure it's nice and level. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect because the weight of the next cake will push it down anyway. So here we have the top layer of the cake, and this is where I'm going to put the raspberry jam. You can use any flavour of jam that you like. My personal favourite, and that of a lot of my customers, is raspberry. I use seedless, that's my preference. It's entirely up to you whether you use seedless or seed full. Okay, so give that a lovely spread out. Again, not too much. Too much jam is a little bit sickly with the buttercream as well, so spread it all the way around in a nice even layer, and then we're going to transfer that onto our cake. So just place it nicely onto there, and we can take off this baking parchment as well. That's it gone. Now you're ready to start crumb coating. So again, get a nice big spatula full of buttercream, and I'm going to start on this side as I always do. I'm right-handed. I always start on the left-hand side of the cake. I don't know why. It's just how I find it easier. So I'm working over the top of the cake. Whatever works for you is fine. So what we're aiming to do first of all is fill this gap here with buttercream. So I take a nice spatula full, stick it on the cake like that, and then start just spreading it round. Now it doesn't have to be really smooth, really accurate at this stage. We're just aiming to get the buttercream on the cake. So you will need to reload your spatula quite a lot and just smooth it on so that you're filling that gap. And we go all the way around. You can see we're coming round back to where we started. So there we go. That's that bit done. Now we're aiming to fill this, do the same with this bottom gap here, and this is why I use the upturned saucer, just to give me a gap, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to get my spatula below this level, and that's quite tricky to manage. So the gap under here allows me to put the spatula over, keep it flat against the cake, and it keeps it all nicely in line, and get the buttercream smooth in the side of the cake. So once again, keep reloading your spatula, not quite as much, mainly at the end of your spatula this time, and just smooth it round, filling that gap nicely. All the way around the bottom of the cake. This can take slightly longer than the top because you can't put as much on. Leave that bit, tidy that up later. So there we go, we're almost round. There we go. So now you can just go around and make sure there's no gaps. You see the board that the cake is on is acting like a barrier up against which you can rest your spatula and make sure that everything's nice and smooth and straight. There we go. So now you just want to go around the very top, just with a tiny bit of icing on your spatula, and just make sure that the buttercream gets right to the top. There we go, I think that's that. So all that's left to do now is just crumb coat the top. So again, we don't want too much on the top, it's literally just the crumb coat. So you're not aiming to completely get rid of the colour of the cake coming through. You should still be able to sort of see through the icing. It doesn't want to be that thick. And there we have it, all covered. So we just go around and smooth that off, make sure there's no lumps and bumps all around the outside. Just cover bits that we've missed. And there we have it, a crumb coat.